Welcome to Bench Talk, the podcast where I dive deep into conversations with inspiring artists to unveil the secrets behind their creativity, along with discussions and behind-the-scenes insights into the realities of building a professional art career. I'm your host, Tom Gerrard, a professional artist from Australia and the co-founder of Art Career Academy, where Claire Bradshaw and I help emerging and established artists build sustainable professional careers. I started this podcast back in 2016 with a dream of going full-time with my art career, and through these conversations I made that dream a reality. Now I share these interviews and insights to inspire other creatives along their journey. If you'd like to support the show, you can subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who needs to hear it. This helps us keep the podcast going and is much appreciated. Welcome to another episode of Bench Talk. I'm your host, Tom Gerrard. Today I'm sitting down with a Victorian-based artist, Jasmine Mansbridge. How you going, Jasmine?
Hello, Tom. Good to see you.
Thanks for taking the time to sit down and have a chat. How you been?
I'm really good because I'm really looking forward to the year ahead, and what the potential of the year ahead is always a really kind of exciting place to be starting new work, and yeah.
Yeah. I see you got a whole lot of blank canvases behind you. Do they,
Yes.
you got plans for them, or are they they're just stock?
No, it's like, it's the top of the creative U bend.
Yeah.
When there's I've got a lot of paintings to do and a lot of ideas. And I think I said when we spoke just before we started, like, it's all ideas, no frustrations yet. Top. So yeah, and I've already started some on this side, but I'm keeping those under wraps. So we've got the big, a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
So what? So you're working on some big projects at the moment. Is that why it's all under wraps, or?
Look, I've not been very good at. I haven't. I guess most of my work today, I'm very free with, like almost a co-creation. So I'm just making and I guess I've got really intentional this year. In the last month, I've really got very intentional about the body of work that I want to create. And I think maybe we're in similar places, Tom, when you realize that actually you only have so much time. And in the past, I've been like, yes, I'll do this idea, I'll do this idea. And it's like, no, you don't actually have time to do all the ideas. So let's get really clear on the idea that you most want to do, and be selective about that. So this year, I think, is probably, I'm coming into, I guess, a version of myself that has a lot of a lot of clarity about where I want to kind of take my work in the next couple of years. And that feels really exciting. And I think I've got the benefit of like kind of years of experimenting and, that 10,000 hours. So you then can kind of line up and have confidence that you can fully articulate a vision and bring it to life. So that's where I'm at now. And so I do have things locked in for the year, but less like norm. I mean, if you look, I've done a lot of things because I love a lot of things, but I've been intentional about really committing to the least amount of things ever at this point, so that I can kind of send all the value and send the most amount of energy to the things I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I know that feeling. I was thinking about it as well because I've just been on holiday and I was kicking back and I had this grand plan that I'll sort of map out my year and have it all sorted out. It's January. Let's plan the year out. And I realized that I didn't have all the answers and I was a bit frustrated. And it's like, go easy on yourself, mate. It's you don't need to have all the answers. The year's going to sort of unfold as it does.
And they do. And they do, don't they?
Yeah. But have some plans. Go, I want to do this. I want to do that, and like have like 5 or 6 big things you'd like to achieve or whatever. But I think we got to be kind to ourselves as well and allow some space. Because if you fully book up your year in January and then people come to you and say, "Oh, I got this great opportunity," you got to turn them down.
It's kind of getting the balance of that, isn't it? And I think this is the first, the first time I can ever remember actually giving myself, because I love painting. I really love it. I love, my practice of painting is also like part of my self-care, regular. I just love it. And so, but I was really intentional to actually say, you can just have some time off. Like instead of actually painting, let's really think about, being intentional. And when I say that, like you hit the nail on the head, because same
Mm.
thing. It's like once a year it gets momentum. It's like the things that you want to do get their own momentum. It's like, so by the end of the year, you're like,
Mm.
there's like all these things. But yeah, even that going like at the end of last year, because I had a really busy year last year, I kind of thought there's already stuff happening from the last thing I did that's still unfolding. So it's like, just leave some space,
Yeah.
be a bit space. Anyway,
Yeah. It's important. It's important because people, things pop up. Like I like
they
to make
do.
sure that I can take on opportunities that present themselves,
Mm.
and sometimes they've got really short timelines, and you've got to act on them fast. And
I
you know,
know. I
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you're based in out in the countryside, in Victoria. How's that been for you? Like, how does it work for your art and like your career and
Yeah.
everything like that?
Yeah, look, that's been an evolution too, Tom, and you've visited here, so the feel of where I am. And so I've been out here for 14 years. I'm near the Grampians, and I made the commitment a long time ago that I would not use distance as an excuse for anything. But I'm 3.5 hours, almost 4 from Melbourne. And so just to compress that time and make it nothing. And having that mindset's really, really served me in a lot of ways, because you can either look at the distance as a limitation or a big advantage. And so when I do have work to do and I need to block out time to paint, the distance is then useful because I can guard or protect my studio time in a way that I would find harder in the city. It's like for being a full-time artist, the cost of living here is, so much cheaper. There's a lot of things that are just free, like parking, and, there's a lot of things just very easy here. But then I need the contrast of the city and people. And so if I'm not getting the balance right, being out here doesn't serve me anymore. I've got to see friends, I've got to connect, and uh, you and Claire have been part of that kind of group of people that I can be like, what's happening? What's happening in the world? But it's great here. And I have had studios in the city. I had a studio in Geelong for almost 4 years, and then a studio in Melbourne for a year. And then I made the commitment, I think it was the beginning of last year, or maybe 2 years ago, to go, you know what? Let's just put your practice in one place and not be separating that anymore. And that's been a good decision, actually. It's been a good decision, but it's not. There's challenges to whatever you do, and yeah, it's a balance that I'm continually seeking. And also, my commitment was in the commitment to come out here that I would focus more on an international, like being international, and so traveling less, like up and down the highway, and when I am traveling, going further afield. So being more intentional with seeking what's happening on a kind of wanting to understand what's happening globally and wanting to connect globally. And that's also worked. Like it works to kind of be out here, but then be when I am out there. And I think this year I'm working out, like you said, I'm kind of working out what this year will look like. I don't quite know, and I'm always open to taking another studio again. I'm thinking of that again, of having another space in the city. Just seeing what's working. But it is
Mm.
good out here.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, I got to tip my hat to you for the amount of I know that you're so out there in, like, you seem like you live in Melbourne, and then when I go to your house, you've got artwork from everyone, and it's like, gee, you really
Yeah,
get out there, and you
yeah.
don't just sort of sit in your bubble in the countryside, and you really you do the drives and you put the effort in, and it's
Mm.
it really shows because yeah, I just consider you a Melbourne artist, but
I know,
yeah.
and I almost do consider myself. consider myself Melbourne based in a way, because that's where, I mean, I've been only in Victoria for 14 years. I lived, I mean, this is the closest I've lived to a big city. Ironically, this is still close. Um, and this is the most access I've kind of had to a major center. And so everything is like in the head, right? It's like
Mm.
everything is scalable. And so, but I have had also that commitment. One of the things that I have been able to do because of the affordability out here is have a big home and collect people's work and, collect from my peers, which I feel is really important when I can. If I've made money, I always spend money on other people's work that I love. And so over time, that I feel, because I continue to have the commitment to this place, I think that there are always within any generation of artists the need for, it's beneficial for some of them to be very, very grounded and, collect and support and have, have friends stay here often. And it's just really nice to, things evolve. And I didn't intend to be this person really, but then I see, when you see your role kind of unfolding, or you see where things have been difficult, that actually they're beneficial. And so that's one of the benefits of kind of being out here. And I do have a big kind of family situation too. And so that there's a lot of flexibility for people to have the same opportunity that I have, which is having a rest from the intensity of the city and the vibration. There's a lot of energy and vibration that exists within the city that is not here. And my nervous system definitely benefits from the contrast. And I do have a lot of energy to give when I'm not here. It kind
Yeah.
of backs up.
Yeah, totally, totally. You do have a great setup out there. You've got a, as you
Mm,
said, nice big house, but you've got a
mm,
really big backyard and a great studio as well.
yeah.
And
Mm.
yeah, like, so working from home, do you enjoy like having your studio right there in your backyard and being able to pop into the house and live like that?
I need to. Like I have always. I mean, look, there's a difference between a home studio and a work studio, because I've had both, and it's very hard for me to have, for one of a better word, work-life balance, because I feel like the paintings are communicating or speaking to me all the time. There's always a little dialogue with what's going to happen next, or and I'll be like, oh, I know what to do, but I'll be inside like cooking dinner or something. I'm like, I know what to do, and sometimes if I'm not disciplined, I've literally just quickly go, and then I start doing it, and then of course I got off track completely. So it's very easy for me to spend a lot, when I'm here by myself, which is often I've got children that kind of come and go between me and their father. And when they're not here, I'll be out here from 7 till 11 or midnight. I occupy the studio when I'm here by myself. I don't really leave too much, because I start and I don't want to stop painting. So that's probably one of the harder things about having a studio at home, is that kind of the lack of separation. And so then what I've kind of found now is actually when I give myself then the freedom when I'm in the city or traveling. It's okay. Just just be. The paintings are fine, and you can't go touch them. So when I had a studio in the city, it's like just another replica of here, which is, I'm quite obsessed with my work.
Yeah.
Um, which you have to be, right, to sustain all of the to be able to write out all of the uncertainties and the complexities of being an artist
Yeah.
as,
Yeah,
as a
definitely.
job, like as a job and as all the things. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You
work.
gotta want it. See, I know I know a few people who've, like, been dabbling for years and stuff, and it's like, they're like, "Oh, I don't know if I wanna commit," and all that. It's like, you gotta really want it to do
Yeah,
this
you
for a
have to
living.
want it.
Yeah.
You really
Mm.
have to, and I think you have to, and I think you have to, and you're almost like I feel like it's sometimes a balance of really wanting it and then also surrendering it. And sometimes I have to do that, because I can get so intensely like, and I've had to do it recently, so intensely focused on the work. And it's like, actually, just like, you need to also surrender it
Mm.
and wait for it. You know, there's like this dance between yourself and wherever it all comes from. It's like, okay, just like, just be. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden the idea will come. It's like this funny dance. But yeah, it is, you know, going into that as another whole conversation about being a full-time artist, and that's always changing, and what's required from you and how to do that. It's always changing.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so mm,
Yeah. Did you ever go to art school or anything like that?
no, I would have loved that. I, I didn't. Look, I grew up in mostly with parents traveling a lot, and my parents were very alternative in like Christian, like religious alternative, if that's probably the nicest way to put it, or the easiest way to put it. And so formal education wasn't really a priority, and I had to kind of process some feelings around that over the years. But also in my favor, and this is why I do what I do, is because I was raised to question structure and question, you know, to always deeply question, um, you know, what would be, you know, to question convention, and also very free to create. And so a lot of there'll be time, there's work that I make now, almost most, all of my work I make now has some kind of birthed in a childhood idea or obsession, like really. And sometimes I have that linking to go, oh, I'm just doing this, like, I'm just literally doing the same thing. I haven't, but obviously the ideas are evolved and the concept evolved. But it really, so my work, I just have come to being a practicing artist by being a practicing art, like just obsessively making my work from, I think when I was around 17, I think someone wanted to buy a painting that I'd done, and it kind of clicked that this actually could be also a job, because the painting that someone bought was just so much more than I could have earned at the job I was doing. And it's like, okay, I think I'm just gonna like keep doing this thing and let it evolve. And it's so interesting because there's threads of all of that early work coming back into the work I'm doing now. And it's like the work that I'm doing now, because it's looks very experimental, but actually it's just a return of some other thing that I was obsessed with a long time ago that hasn't had vision within my contemporary practice, within what's. So that's an interesting thing. And I would have loved to go into art school. I was in the Northern Territory. The artists that I was around were all Indigenous artists. I got married when I was very young, and that was into a family that had art galleries and been involved with Indigenous artists for years, you know. So, and those were the artists who became my friends, and I witnessed them working really hard, like working, you know, the time that they would devote to creating a piece and how long it would take to resolve. You know, we're talking about the rock and the dots, and witnessing the dedication and the practice, like the time and the intention that it took for work to be ready to come into what I think made a really big impact on me when I was very young. Because I think when you're young and you're creating work, you go, oh, this doesn't look good. Oh, well, whatever. And I'm like, no, this doesn't look good, but I'm just going to keep going and going and going and going and going. And it was through this kind of modeling of like uh, devotion to practice that I kind of bought into my own life. And also because, you know, Indigenous artists they just paint with the family around. Everyone's there, people are coming and going, and there's no like there's no like studio practice per se. It's just like, we're just doing this thing. We just do it. We just love it. We just do it. This is our thing. And so that really kind of unfolded in my own life as always having a painting on the go. I've got children, so I was literally stopping, starting, always painting. In my mind, there's always been some painting happening. my entire life. It's never been not a painting happening. And so I think now I have a studio. Now I have this art practice. But for the first decade at least, you know, I don't know. I think I've had a proper studio. This studio here I built 12 years ago. Until that, I have had been worked from the dining table or spare, just spaces that I've claimed in my bedroom. So I think that I feel like that's still present in my work, that kind of like um, love of practice and love of process. And I remember when COVID came, when we found out that, oh, the world's going to kind of maybe stop. And I was like, oh, and I remember coming straight out. I was like, oh, great, I'm gonna have time just, and the first thing was to paint, because it's commercial. Obviously, needs to be a commercial aspect and value and a business aspect to the work, because I need to be employed. I need to make money, but that's also not why I paint. So, I mean, I know that we're having a conversation. I know this resonates deep with you because we have a lot of, I guess, similar values at the core about creation.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
It's
It totally does.
a long,
Yeah.
convoluted answer.
Yeah. It's
But yeah,
interesting what you were saying though about when COVID came, because I thought as well, like, oh, I'm just going to lock myself in the studio and just go for it.
I was like,
And
yay.
so, yeah, but I actually had lots of projects all planned out, and there was lots of traveling involved and all this sort of
Yeah,
stuff. But as you know, with projects, you got to work on
yeah,
a design brief
I
and
know,
sort of
I
you've
know.
got to tick boxes that aren't necessarily for you. But it's all
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
creativity, and you put yourself out there, and you start with a blank canvas, and it's all you. But
Hmm.
you've got sort of parameters. And when all
Hmm.
those jobs, I crossed them all off my to-do list because they weren't actually going to go ahead anymore. And I felt like
Hmm.
I had this, freedom to really create and express myself in
Hmm.
the studio. And I know it was a very shaky time for a lot of people, but
Hmm.
yeah, as an artist, I just really embraced it and felt that I
Hmm.
excelled during that time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was the same. It was the same thing for me. I think, I was doing, and this is where I think we first met was with the large scale, for want of a better word, but street art, like large scale mural work. And it's someone asked me, yes, actually, oh, you haven't been really, do you still do like murals? Do you still do large scale work? And I was like, you know what? Actually, that's a good question, because when COVID came, I had a couple of big projects in China. Like, I was really busy when COVID came, and I was quite burnt out actually on reflection. And really, since then, it hasn't come back. Like, I've done some work, but there was a real intensity and velocity to that kind of work. Would you agree? That kind of
Mm.
it's very different. It's a different landscape now. But I'm more
Mm.
than happy to be, I'm more than happy to have all that energy directed into studio practice. And also, it's just like, que sera, sera. It's like, what- whatever will be. You can't control it. So just like,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that things are starting to fire up again, but,
mm,
I don't know, I feel that I'm handling it differently. Like, I'm much more
yes.
calm within myself,
Mm-hmm,
and,
mm-hmm,
I don't know, I stand in my power a lot more, push back on
yeah,
things, don't take on every job, all that sort of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But, yeah. So you mentioned that you know, you've been focusing, like last year anyway, focusing a lot more on working internationally, and you've
Mm,
like last year you had an exhibition in Hong Kong at
mm-hmm,
Soluna Fine Art, and then
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you also did the residency as well in France? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. Look,
And
I've been to France a couple of times. Look, I think I have, and we're probably similar in the way, like what you just said really resonates with me in terms of like, you're more confident with your nose, you've got more clarity about your yeses. And I think that's kind of, you know, it just representative of kind of where you sit with, um, within the amount of work you've done and age and all of these things. But no, look, I first went to Hong Kong in 2017 for the Art Basel Week, and painted a mural there and did another. Then I kind of have been to Hong Kong. I've been to Hong Kong a lot, and I really love, there's something I really love about Hong Kong. So I have a lot of really great kind of friendships there, and I can get to Hong Kong and it feels like, there's something in my system that's very resonant with Hong Kong. And so this exhibition opportunity came up, and it was just a real privilege to be asked. The question was, would I like to? How would I respond to Hong Kong? Like, would I like to respond directly? And see, the thing is, for my work, most often, well, pretty much always, it's the architecture is coming from my dreams, or it's abstract, it's utopian, it's my own symbology and my own inner world, and so, but obviously all of that comes, not obviously, it's not obvious, but I mean, I love drawing, and drawing has been, drawing underpins everything I do. I drew obsessively as a child, really. And drawing the city as a child, my grandparents lived in the city, and I remember just drawing the city and drawing the city because I think I've always lived in kind of sparse, natural environments. Sparse is not the right word, but I've always lived within the natural environment. But I feel like my aesthetic and what I'm drawn to and everything is very architectural and, geometric, and that's been where I have an attraction to that. So, to be asked to respond to Hong Kong was really was really, really enjoyable, because, it's a whole different process to paint a real place or reference a real place. So that was a great show to paint. And, as you just said, like, from one thing, always another thing comes. So there's other things happening. I'll be there in March again for the art fair week, and there's other things, kind of branching off all the time. I've actually just got someone coming to work with me now this year, because I'm like properly, because of the realization that I, I can't just think I can keep doing all these things just by myself. You can't, the administrative end of things just gets so heavy, right? And what the thing I need to be doing is I have the balance of creation has to be there, or, I just don't feel great. So other international, yeah. So I think the international things, I think because I didn't go to art school, and I really didn't even go to school much, my parents were, my mother, I come from a very well-educated family who really wanted to challenge conventional education as well. So the irony there. And so a lot of my education is self-education. I have always loved literature, I've been obsessed with the relationship between words and form all my life. And so it's like, I think when I got myself out of the Northern Territory, when I left the Northern Territory when I was 26, I was just so eager and keen to see the world, understand the world, fill in gaps, the awareness that I just was so lacking in understanding about many of the things I wanted to understand more. And so really since then, I've been traveling as much as I can. Like, for me, it's like to go and experience is the education. And also every time I do that, there's some like response in my visual work. I don't never know. I can never even begin to anticipate what that response might be or look like. I just have to put my body in a place, and then the work responds. It's like, that the subconscious feeds then whatever was important. And so there's a couple of other, and that's when I come back to having the time. It's like this year, I don't want it to eat up, but already if I do those things that I'm going to do, yeah. So anyway,
Yeah,
it's exciting.
it is. It
It's
is.
exciting.
So when you said you're getting someone in to help, is that more admin stuff, or is that to help you with the
Yeah.
paintings? Or
No,
yep,
it's just admin. It's just, and that's the thing. It's like, for me, I also have this, and that also comes back to growing up around people who painted and understand the energy. It's like the energy of a person is going to make the work alive, right? And so, if I'm creating work and I'm painting, it's like I'm very aware of leaving myself in it, if that makes sense. Not in a woo-woo way, but it's like, um, I always get I get feedback all the time about the impact that my work has on people when they've lived with it for a while. And it's always that somehow the work, even, and some of my work is quite complex and bright, but that they feel it feels light, and it brings this kind of lightness to a room, or it feels calm and peaceful, and that I want to create work that does that, that is introspect, that calms your nervous system, has an impact on your parasympathetic nervous system, on has meditative qualities. So the meditative qualities that I need to make the work, because I've got to slow right down. It's so, requires so much precision, that those qualities stay in the work, and then they are reflected back to where the work eventually, occupy, what space it occupies.
Hey artists, listen up. If you're committed to your art career, you're done with waiting for opportunities to kind of magically find you, and you're ready to start to actually build a sustainable career from a strategic lens, then we've got something for you. Tom and I are going to be running the Going Pro Bootcamp over 3 days. It's completely free, and we're going to be starting on Tuesday, the 10th of February. We're going to be covering things like vision, voice, and visibility. Basically, these are the things that you need to go from a place of feeling a bit stuck, scattered, unsure of in your art career to a place of more clear confidence. And this is the exact same framework that we have used to help our community to land solo gallery shows, to secure 5-figure commissions, to land media opportunities and build their sustainable careers. And you can access all of this for free. So all you need to do is head to artcareeracademy.com/3-day bootcamp, or click the link in the notes to save your spot. Let's make 2026 your year for your art career. Let's get back to the episode.
so with the geometric forms you paint,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
my interpretation is they look like sort of dreamscapes and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Like, can you tell me about your art?
Yeah, look, a lot of my work does come from a dream, like a dream world. And that's, I think the relationship with that has really increased over the last 10 years. A lot of my work is really looking at, our, our humanness, like the things that we struggle with. And it's, I think, basically like the structure or the format of geometry, and using shape as metaphor, and worlds as a way of telling stories, is a very safe way to kind of explore all kinds of subject matter, because you can explore things that are quite complex. And if you're painting an actual dream of a story, it would be complex, but I can kind of distill down, distill meaning, and reduce it to these very simplistic forms. I'm trying to think of a good example. I guess, I had a show called Painting a Perfect World in 2020. And it's I had this exhibition, and it had a big sculpture, a dream gazebo. And, this is a 5-point portal. Like, so there are reoccurring motifs within my work. And it's funny because it's just a witness of, it was what I grew up and witnessed as being important within art, is using metaphor to tell stories, which is what Indigenous people do. They use these different things. And it took me a long time to even see that I'd kind of absorbed some of that as a way to tell stories. So within my work, the shapes all kind of have this kind of meaning. So the thought catchers, which are cubes essentially, they're always, I'm able to put them in a painting and they'll be representing me. They're like a sense of self. They're a thought catcher. They are, we are some of our thoughts. That's all we are. And so that's them within the worlds. So painting a perfect world at that time, I was actually going through a really hard time because my marriage had ended and, I had people pass away and there was a lot of instability. Also with COVID, there was still a lot of instability with that. I don't think, and it's like, so to paint these utopian worlds that are still, they have stillness and they're resolved. There's like, I guess, like a sense of wellness and that we're going to be okay, that everything's going to be okay. Like that underneath chaos or movement, that there always is kind of this basis of what does not change. And our humanness doesn't change. There's nothing new under the sun. We all deal with the same issues of like aging, loss, love, all these human complexities that they feel very, emotions are complex and we struggle with them, and yet they're pinned by the geometry, or they're pinned by these fundamental facts that we are from dust to dust. Like, and this is never in, like, I'm a very light person. Like, this is how I take these complex things and deal with them, and then they're alchemized. So I'm really interested in that as art and creation as a way to alchemize, and storytelling as a way to find things that are difficult. And this is the job of the artist, to help what's difficult have a place. But, if you listen to Beyonce sing a song, for example, whatever is resonating in that song for you, or whatever music you're listening to that's deeply personally resonating, is not because you're feeling sorry for that artist or you're empathizing with them. It's because they have struck a chord in you and it's your emotion, and then you're dealing with your emotion. If it's about heartbreak, it's because it was your heartbreak that's getting the opportunity to kind of move through you and be alchemized, if you want to take the opportunity to do that, because we can let go of pain when we witness it. So a lot of my painting practice has been a way for me to make sense of really complex things in my own world, but at the same time to allow that, to whatever degree someone wants to engage with the work, because everyone engages at different levels, but to deeply engage with work and it be a way to have higher well-being. And like, for example, so there's 3-point portal paintings I do. It's kind of, this one behind me is a work in progress, but it's the set of 6 triangles. And the first time they came to me was in a really, really difficult time, like a very difficult personal time. And then I just kind of saw them in my head as like the coming together of that. And it was like kind of mirroring what I needed to do with my own self. It's like, I need to just calibrate myself. I need to ground myself. I need to like calm myself down. Actually, and so it's like, then the process of painting these portals, and every time I paint one of those paintings, it is like bringing myself into this place of calmness. And this is, I never meditated or did any of that stuff when I was painting these works. It's like almost the process of repetitively painting these paintings gifted me the understanding of how to just center myself. So those particular paintings kind of have that purpose in the world, to create stillness in a space. And that is the feedback I get from them. And this is a long answer to your question about what the work is, but because as an artist too, as you know, it's like always kind of slightly evolving with how you are evolving as a person, and your personal world, and the way that it's serving, if you know what I mean. Because I think always when you're an artist, there's this dance between like needing to do it because you kind of just have to, because that's how you were created. If you're created to obsessively need to make something, you have to listen to that. It makes you sick if you're not. And I've been very sick at times when I have disconnected from my work. I'd actually get physically sick. And it's like there's a balance between needing to make work and then also the identity you create or you become because of the work, which is it's quite separate to the work, but it's important to the work because that's how the world the world has to receive the work via a human. And so it's like this relationship between the human face of the work, which is me, the brand, whatever you want to call it, and then the responsibility to make sure that that doesn't just become about me. Like it's not, that it doesn't just start landing as just being me. And so when I said about the surrender, that process of going, okay, this is like my plan for the work and it's not working or whatever. It's like, okay, I surrender because I always want to be making work that is of the highest, like going to serve the highest purpose. And so I am very interested in making work that connects people in some ways themselves. And, these are the sculptures, which I love. That's the purpose of them. And
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting what you're saying about like being the face of the work as well, because like,
yeah.
I feel that like the work for me when I'm working, I work at like 10 paintings at a time and I've got no idea how they're going to come out. And I just sort of go with the flow in the studio. And, you'll have people say, oh, why don't you do more like this one or more like that? And it's like, well,
yeah.
I felt like I didn't really choose what these artworks were going to be. I just started painting and here they are, and, yeah, and I've like, especially now more than ever as well with like, I guess artists having to build like a personal brand, so to say. I just feel that I prefer to just let the art be the face of everything.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
because I'm just a guy, I think when you put a person to it, it's sort of, sometimes it can lose some of the magic of the artwork. It's like,
Yeah.
a mere mortal made that. I thought, where it's like the art seems like it's got some magic about it.
You do a good job of that. And I think, but in saying that, I do when I look at your work, I do see Tom's face, or no, not Tom's face. I see Tom's energy, or, you as the warm, altruistic, generous kind of, really inclusive person that you are. So your work has this pull to it. And so I think, if you think of an artist and then you think of their work, the relationship is kind of, you become your work, I guess. And but I'm like you. I have sometimes the series I'm doing right now was delivered like I intentionally dream to access, like I'll be really specific about being asked to be shown things in dreams, and it's a very strong aspect of my practice is to look and see what dreams are, anyway, the series I'm doing right now was shown to me in a dream. And I think this is the balance of like showing up and just starting and seeing what comes, which is sometimes the way I work, but more often it's like quite specific conceptually. Almost this is the way work is delivered to me. But then in that process, so now that I've started this new series already last night, because I had, a peripheral idea because I was drawing, I was like, oh, this is actually going to really work now, like you, for this one. So I just started making the beginnings of drawing up another painting because something very powerful resonated in one. So it's like then they become a family. So it is similar in process of that. It's like, but I think sometimes the subconscious or the dream, and this is why it's powerful, because the subconscious can resolve the ideas of all my busy mind and then deliver me via a dream, a kind of unified, calm, this is a good idea. And also because, so the worlds it's a crazy thing because the worlds, so this is going on to a whole nother tangent, but, Carl Jung believed that we have, a unified subconscious that we that we access. So everybody is accessing it. And these have been my questions around, like, say, sacred geometry, where these patterns and, you know, when, you know, in the oldest cultures, there's this resonance and similarity of designs, when it can't be confirmed whether or not that they actually saw that, or where they were also kind of thinking, oh, this looks good. This feels good. Like, let's do this. These shapes feel really pleasing in this combination. And to the point, because of my lack of education, my lack of formal education, I mean, there's been times I have felt like I am the first person to do something, and I'm like, this is so great. And then I just see it, someone else painted it in 1940, or some, you know, these artists who are similar to my style, or people who are also obsessed with storytelling via geometry. It's like, yeah, there's obviously a shared aspect of the psyche that we like. You know, everyone has their deep appeal of what aesthetically pleases you, and where does that come from? Like, and I grew up in country Australia. I didn't grow up with design, or, you know, I grew up with, you know, I grew up forming my own world within my head largely. I grew up without TV and without popular culture because my parents were very anti-popular culture. So I really grew up in lots of ways a blank canvas. It's like, so I can actually say to myself, where did that idea even come from? You know, so, or did it come from somewhere subliminally and I've just attached to it because that was one thing that I loved, you know, in a book or something. But it is interesting. I think I love these conversations with artists about what's the source, because it is so different for
Yeah.
everybody. And that's the fascinating thing. And that's why, and I know you have a lot to do with younger artists, and I do too, but not officially. It's like, just like the thing you love and you're obsessed with, just keep doing that one thing. Because even if someone's doing something similar, if you devote yourself to what you love, in 20 years, it won't be similar. You know, and you'll be
Exactly.
out there on your own little world, on your own little trajectory, if you dedicate yourself to creating work that belongs to you. You know,
Yeah,
because
totally.
it's a language, right? It's a language you have to learn. Like, I feel like now at this point, I've kind of been painting for 30 years, really, which is a long time, but then it's not. It's like, at this point, I'm only just able to, like, actually say, see a dream and then replicate that, because I've learnt the language. And so I feel like the paintings are also like, it's the chicken and egg thing. It's like, I dream the worlds I paint, and I can't remember when they started, but I didn't always have the technical ability to replicate them as well. And I think one of the gifts of sticking at it for this long, and you would probably agree, is that your technical ability is the gap between what you want to make and your ability to make it and see a vision. Even if you're just doing it even if you're just making whatever, your technical ability is like so much closer and so much quicker to creating what you conceptualize. And younger, like, whether you studied at art school or not, that's something that still requires like actual physical practice to close the gap.
Yeah.
So do, right? We're both drawing club people. Do.
Yeah.
Do to be.
Yeah. Like, even talking about like learning new things as well. Like, when did the like the sculptures come into your work? Like, because I've seen you make a whole bunch of them, and
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
learning curve in itself, surely.
You know, it is. And sculpture is a huge learning curve and a very expensive one. And that's one of the luxuries, again, of living where I live. I've got space. I've got people who are skilled tradesmen who have shared their skills with me. And, you know, so there's an access point that has been easy for me to experiment with things. But the sculptures, I think, it's really hard. You know, I think I get an idea and I just get very obsessed with it. And to the point that it'll just happen because of the obsession. And I guess I've been painting these forms for a long time, and in my head, they've been there. And then the only way to share an idea is to fully conceptualize it so people can see it. Because when you're trying to explain ideas or draw ideas, there's not that much power in it. And so these large scale steel sculptures, what I wanted to create was the experience of the painting. Like, so looking at the painting and you're having this calming, or you're feeling like looking in this painting and engaging with it is taking your nervous system down. It's actually, and while I was doing this kind of before there was any research, we're now with a lot of research to back all this up, that actually how art, looking deeply and pondering a piece of art, has a very positive effect on your parasympathetic nervous system, unless you're looking at something if you're that's it's very general. If you're looking at something that's triggering a trauma in you, or some art is designed to trigger you for some kind of action. I'm talking about just deeply contemplative art, or my work. That's what my work is. It's not trying to trigger people or traumatize them into any kind of response. And there's all kinds of artists that are needed for all kinds of things. It's like, so I wanted to kind of get the experience of a painting, but make it a full body experience. And so the large scale, the thought catcher is the cube, and then the portal, 5-point portal, is this one here that has the colored top. I think you've seen that one. I exhibited that at the Compendium Gallery last year. And then there's the dream gazebo, which is the hexagon, which is reminiscent of, an actual gazebo, where, people, the intention of a gazebo has always been to remove yourself, like to go down, you go down the garden, and they've always been a place for contemplation and solitude. And so particularly that's one I'm probably painting a lot of at the moment, because it's like, how do you recreate the dream gazebo in your mind? Like, when you need to just have, like, when you need to take some time out, like you just need to, and I've got children, so these concepts are things that I guess for me, a visual concept will always, I'll be able to make sense of a visual concept like that. And I can do it if I can visualize it rather than a spoken one. So it's like the dream gazebo sculpture. If you step inside that, and I haven't had to, these are not fully accessible sculptures, I will admit. You've got to kind of step into, and I'm working on another piece that is fully accessible as much as I can. I want something that everyone can access, but that's a work in progress. But the dream gazebos, you step in, and so if you're looking at the work and you step in, and then there's mirrors and inside, and there's perspex and colored glass. It's like when you hop in the sea and you can't help but like feel joyful because the cold water is hitting you, and you laugh, and it's like, oh my God, this is great. So the sculptures are meant to, you get in there and you go, oh wow, so there's wonder, and then the nervous system has wonder and joy and curiosity, and you put your body in there. You've removed your body. You've taken your body from one space to another. So it's like, this is what I was always really interested in, like really deeply interested. And, this is like 20 years ago before, and now a lot's catching up to these concepts as actually being very real. We know that actually joy and wonder and curiosity and these things, when they are in the body, there's so much less room for the tension, just has to kind of like dissipate. And so I think, these are things I would love to see a lot more of in the world, that we intentionally create things that are good for our big adult bodies, because we do it when we're children. Like, children are very good at dropping the baggage. Like, they're very good at being really upset about something, and 2 minutes later they've looked at something and they've just dropped it. They're just, whatever they were worried about is literally gone from their body. And adults tend to, all those processes get very slow, and they stick in us, and they gather. And you look at people who, when they're 70 or 80 and they've never let anything go, and it is so, they literally they'll be rigid.
Hmm.
because that,
Yeah.
you know, the process of letting go of human stuff is really important in terms of well-being. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think art's a
I'm
great
not
way
good
to
at
do
short
that.
answers.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's next for you, Jasmine? So yeah, is
Um,
2026. You said you got some plans.
yeah, look, I've got a lot of, I mean, I've got not a lot, but I've got some really amazing irons in the fire of things that I've potentially might come to fruition. And then I've got things that you know, are kind of in place that will happen. And I've got, I mean, it's kind of like, like, what is success, Tom?
Happiness.
Like, yeah, like exactly. It's like I could sit here and say these particular things are happening, and I think the big shift for me after so much. So I've had a lot of personal loss and a lot of disruption, and had to really recreate a life over the last 5 years, and I've really been challenged to create something that actually feels good over looking good, because there's a really big difference between both, and trying to marry the two. Obviously, like I want a life that feels really good and is also, I guess, inspires other people. Like, you know, like a life that I'm just really living really as authentically as I can. And that's, you know, for want of a word, but authenticity to me is being able to do this work, and being someone who it was never really possible. You know, I don't come from any money, or have any of that infrastructure to have supported me. And I've had to, I mean, I've been a parole officer. I've done other jobs to support my practice at different times, because that's also a necessary conversation, I guess, you know, like not necessary conversation, but that's something there are times when then, you know, your work, if it's making you suffer in one way, that will actually impact your work. And we all need money. So get a job and balance out your work. It's like there's no ego around doing whatever if you're talking about protecting your practice and protecting your work. Well, then sometimes you've got to protect your work by getting yourself financially stable. And one reason I've been able to have this house and this home is because I did a lot of jobs that weren't creative over the years. You know, I've been full-time now for, I think it's 17 years since I had a job. And it's like, but that was, in saying that, I've been so structured. Like I have worked my art, like, because it's always like this terror, for want of a word, of like, if I don't really treat this as a job and get really structured and have a lot of discipline, I will just work for someone else. Like it, you know, like it's like if I want to work for myself, and you'd be the same, Tom, I know you're so, you know, it's like things like podcasts don't just disappear because you sometimes randomly have an, you know, it's like the structure. And I guess I'm speaking to a broad audience now who potentially is like younger artists listening. And I think when you say what's happening, it's like there's a point of success. The success for me right now that's making me really happy is what we touched on, is that I have now got so many amazing contacts who really appreciate and support my practice everywhere. Part of that is because of the discipline. Like if I say I'm going to do something, you know, I will put structures in place to the best of my ability to make that happen, even if it's not much sleep sometimes. There's stuff happening in Hong Kong. There's some really exciting stuff happening in Hong Kong. I guess I'm kind of limited about some of the things I can kind of talk about at this point. But mostly wanting to be a really, really good painter this year, and wanting to build I just want someone to let me build a park, like full of, you know, I want to build a utopian world. This has like been on my mind for so long, and someone will eventually let me do it. You know, straight away I see my brain just gone to the park in my mind, because if we look at how the state of the world right now, I feel like this is my prediction, and I just feel like the structures, you know, not feel like, but it's obvious that a lot isn't working. A lot of our ways of being are not working, and we creativity. So sometimes, often, always, the creativity I bring to my work is what actually is the same creativity I have to bring to finances and bring to structure and to survive. For what, it's like, not survive, it's like, okay, how am I going to make money from nothing? It's essentially what we do. So how am I going to make money from nothing? And so you create things. And the same creativity that you need to create the work, you need to create the structure. And so I feel like right now the world really needs creative thinkers and creative people to be at their highest and best and most functional selves, so that we're in a position to support the changes that the world needs. That's like at the core what I feel. Because if you're disempowered and all the things that we're kind of told as a stereotype of an artist, that you probably like the stereotype of an artist that used to be that you probably got a drug problem and you can't do this and you can barely, like, those things are, sure, that exists, but actually to really serve the world and bring your work through and then be what the world needs right now, that requires you to have a certain amount of like intention and structure and drive. And I think, sorry, now I'm going off on a tangent because I'm still thinking of the playground, but playgrounds are important. Artists are important. We need to have more community. And I think one of the biggest issues, and something I'm really looking at and talking to a lot of my friends about, is because now, like, unless art is commercial and you're making money from it, it's very hard to justify it. And so people creating just for the love of it without it being a job has kind of, because we don't have textile, we don't have so much that everything is made and delivered to us and we don't use our hands. So I think that'll be a return for this year too. I'm looking at how do I support other people in just being their most vibrant creative selves, not because it's like a job or because of any other reason other than it's so good for your own well-being. And I have admiration for what you do in that space of like mentoring and supporting other people to really be their, best creative selves. So I guess this is what happens as you get older. You like, you really, if you have that altruistic response to wanting to also have an influence over your creative community, then that fills the cup. That is success. There you go. That was my like, because you can, and I have, I think before COVID, I was making a lot of money and a certain kind of success, but I was very burnt out. I didn't see my family anywhere as much as I wanted to. And while that particular drive really served me at that point, that there's been so many shifts that I don't think I could do that again because of, it needs to feel holistic, like, and to make good art at some point, like, if you're not well, that affects your work. And if you're not grounded, that affects your work.
Yeah.
Mm.
So finally, so for people who wanted to check out your work online, where's the best place for them to see you?
Just look under my, Jasmine Mansbridge is the best. Follow me on Instagram. Instagram is probably the best. One thing that I really love are my relationships with collectors over the years. Like, obviously I work with galleries as well. And that's just it's part of a big picture of like the galleries who I work with. I really appreciate them. And that's one relationship. But then I do have relationships with individual collectors over the years or project managers. I think I work by myself. I'm by myself all the time. And these relationships are really important to me, and even our relationship and the relationship with other artists, and wanting, like, I don't know, I've always been very, very generous with my time and my advice, clearly, whether you want it or not. But no, I've always been a very generous person, and because I do believe that because the only reason I'm here is because people didn't gatekeep. I'm here because there were been generous people along the way who have made room for me, because I didn't come with any, I didn't have a seat at any table. And so always, all along, people have believed in me and encouraged me and supported me from a very young age, and supported my work and collected my work. And so it's like that's how I feel. And this is why I collect work. It's like, so we just have to keep the momentum. And my children, my daughter Eden, I think you met Eden at one of the festivals. She's painting and doing so much in art. And my other daughter Caprice, like both of them are really fully, so my work, just being me, has meant that my children are also have the permission to do what they fully want to do in the world. So I mean, one did law and the other did architecture, and it's like, but then they've gone back to like this needing to be in their most fully expressive selves. And so it's like, I think the original question is like, where to find me. Do say hi if you do. And I think my next thing in Melbourne is the Melbourne Art Fair.
Yeah.
To go and see and meet everyone. And that's been actually, that is what I'm doing this year, is I'm I've done a lot of international stuff. I'm in an exhibition in Portugal. I can actually say that. I agreed to that this morning. And I'm so excited about that. I feel it in my body already, being able to visit Portugal, because I've never visited. So that's exciting. That's one thing I can say. And so it's like, but I want to be at home and be under my tree and be in Melbourne more, because it's been really busy last few years. Really connect with what's happening in Australia, because I've kind of got out of it a little. I'm not represented by a gallery in Australia at the moment. A Boom gallery in Geelong, actually. And they're great friends, and they're great friends of artists, and that relationship's kind of been so supportive over the years. But other than that,
sounds like you've got an exciting time ahead. You got some things planned, and also a lot of space to grow. So we've hit the hour mark, but I just wanted
I'm sure we have. It's not hard.
But thanks for taking the time to sit down and have a chat, Jasmine. It's been really good to find out more about your practice. Like, I've known you for a long time now, but I've really there's so much about you I found out through this conversation that I didn't know about.
Good.
And it's really exciting to see what 2026 has in store for you. And the video you showed me of the new paintings that you're working on is really exciting as well. I'm looking forward to seeing them completed. And it's been great to sit down and have a chat.
Yeah, there's much to be grateful for. And I think, in terms of the worldview, I think we need as many people to be optimistic and creative, and to do that work to alchemize pain and be people who can bring joy and lightness into the world, because we only live in our present moments. And so the future, who knows what that holds, really. And to just be present in the present.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. I
No
appreciate
worries.
you so much. I really do. And
likewise.
you've been a wonderful friend. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in today. If you love this episode, I'd really appreciate you sharing it with an artist friend who needs to hear it. Word of mouth is how we reach more creatives like you. And if you're ready to take the next step in your art career, head to the show notes and grab our free resources. They're designed to help you build momentum and clarity on your creative path. Until next time, keep creating.